minutes. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 35 of Horsin Around, right here on the HHH Racing Podcast, our Monday recap show as we discuss the big stakes this weekend at Saratoga and Del Mar. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining us tonight as we are joined by a young man who's been, let's just say, quite busy this weekend. And the weekend is not quite over, Mr. Maher, but Noah Maher is here, co-host of Bet and Booze. And Noah, let me get this straight. Let's see. Friday night, Equine Edge. Saturday, Equine Edge. Sunday, Frank Scattoni. Monday night, here with us. You've had quite the weekend, young man.
Yep. And Thursday, betting and boozing with Ryan Anderson. He's a terrific young man. And we might be seeing him in the future. But yeah, if you had to give me one word to describe me right now, would be tired. That's for sure.
I hear you. And somehow we were able to manage to get a golf round in today. But, you know, it was Labor Day and it was beautiful. Noah, thanks for joining us tonight. We got a lot to talk about. Again, we're going to talk about some stake races this weekend and do that relatively quickly. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button, bottom right-hand side of the screen, notification bell, top right-hand side of the screen. Smash that like button below the video player. Of course, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Power Picks tip sheet. Wow. Did Paul Howard have a day today on the Saratoga Power Picks? Noah has been crushing it as usual on the Del Mar Power Picks. Still one more week, right? No, one more week to sign up for the Del Mar Power Picks next week. It's closing weekend.
Yep. 3 more days. And for those of you who subscribed for this weekend, you got some for today, and they're actually still running right now. I've got it on the other screen over here. So I'll be doing a little bit of multitasking during this show.
Someone I heard has a pick 5 going right now. I don't know who that could be.
I don't know who that could be.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let's get into the stake recap. We are going to show some replays very quickly. Want to let everyone know, administrative item, the Picks and Ponies show that usually starts on 8 p.m., as do most Star shows, on Thursday. We are moving it to 7:30 p.m. Eastern for the simple reason I don't want to bang heads with the NFL. I know a lot of people watch that. So again, Picks and Ponies is going 7:30 now on Thursday nights for the foreseeable future. And we might adjust our Horsin Around show here on Monday nights once Monday night football starting next week. All right. We got a lot of people watching. We got Terry, Katie, Steve, Marco, Lou, a lot of people in the chat already. Thanks. Let's go ahead and jump right in to the first race we're going to talk about, Noah. We're going to talk about the Spinaway. These are the Saturday races at Saratoga, won by a 12.7 to 1 shot. One of 2 horses that went for Godolphin. Immersive beat the very talented Quiet Side, who was 4 wide. I thought this was an impressive effort. It was running the slop. Let's just watch the stretch run. Immersive going in the Godolphin blue, Noah. Meanwhile, Quiet Side not saving a lot of ground, just got caught late.
But it looked like Quiet Side was pretty in hand for most of that until they got to the top of the stretch, and then I think it was Saez who was on, started to get after her. Immersive, I believe, was Manny Franco who was on, and he was getting after her to try to get her going a little earlier, and it took her a while to get going. But then once she started to get going, she came with a run, and I didn't think Quiet Side really, got tired late. I think Immersive pretty much just ran her down. It was impressive.
It was impressive. We see they crossed the finish line. Final time was a little bit slow. Let's go ahead and take a look at the buyer here. The buyer, look, these are younger 2-year-olds going 7 furlongs. 84 is solid. I mean, if you go back and look at, traditionally what happens in this race, 84 is solid, 81 for Quiet Side. I talked about the Queen's MG quite a bit the morning of these races. I was completely against her. Look, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. I just thought the Queen's MG was slow, even though she had won some big races at big odds and by several lengths. And sure enough, the Queen's MG was not a great pick to go there. A co-favorite in the race, finished 5th. Quiet Side should have no problem 2 turns. Immersive shouldn't either. I'm assuming Al Sabati's for some of these horses at Keeneland. You and I would be there for that opening weekend in about a month.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who goes. I wouldn't be surprised if those top two go. I actually did like. I talked to Patrick a little bit before this race actually went off. I did like Immersive a little bit just because I knew the distance wasn't going to be a concern. And 7 furlongs can maybe get to some of these younger horses up at a tiring track like Saratoga. So if Immersive does go, I don't think she should have a problem with the 2 turns. And there was actually Bellicose was a horse for Resolute Racing who ran in that race and actually didn't run very well. But I'm sure we'll probably see her in the future. I haven't heard anything, but she was just quite disappointing. Maybe one that needs to lead.
Yeah, I mean, look, they can bounce back quickly. I mean, Pondering was awful. I love Pondering in this race, to be honest. My second choice, the other Godolphin. These fillies and mares, I mean, these fillies, I'm sorry, they're very fickle, especially 2-year-old babies. And so we'll see what happens as you and I are, I'm sure, we're watching here Del Mar live, and I could use the 6 to get up, but it is falling apart. So I think I'm going to be all right here as it looks like the 9 is going to come from last. Hold on with the 6. No. Wow. From
9.
last, the 9, the favorite
First start in the
wins
States.
at Del Mar. That was pretty impressive effort. I was trying to beat her actually, or him. I used that horse, but anyway, that's not going to increase your pick 5 ticket, but hey, I'm alive, so that's okay. Let's go on to people who are going to watch this replay. Like, what the hell is going on? We are live here Monday night, Labor Day at 8:05 Eastern, and we're multitasking because that's what we do. Let's go ahead to the next race. The Flower Bowl was just wow. I don't even know what to say. We've seen this before. Talk about walk the dog, Noah. Chad Brown, the other Chad. We knew Idea Generation was going to the lead, but I mean, I don't understand why no one was that close to this horse. And strange things happen in distance races, especially when the turf was a little bit off. She won it 31-1. Warlike Goddess came with her run. It just wasn't good enough. McCulloch probably wanted to get covered up and ran okay. Eternal Hope was bad. I thought that horse would just show more speed. Look at these fractions, though. I mean, I understand it was a little bit on the softer side, but it wasn't like crazy soft. 26, 51, and 4, 118. Idea Generation, man. Long shot on the board. Incredible.
Yeah, and hats off to Oldie who had this horse in the pick 5 during the live show that we eventually ended up getting on. But yeah, like you said, sometimes in these turf races they just let somebody go, and these jockeys figured that they're going to come back to them. I don't think it was really the turf. I just think they kind of fell asleep on them. And I know you guys covered it, and I didn't really get to look at this race too much, but I figured Eternal Hope would probably be a lot closer than she was, and she really wasn't.
I thought so too. I mean, I wanted Eternal Hope to, just sit off. I thought Eternal Hope would be sitting right off Idea Generation. And I mean, it wasn't like a photo. I mean, she won by a length and a half. I don't know where they're going to go with her. Chad is a little upset that the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf is going to be a mile and 3/8 instead of a mile and 1/8. But, that's Chad being Chad, with all due respect. When Love's Only You won in 21, no, and I was there and actually had a nice score on Love's Only You, who ended a double that day with Life is Good in a was it Life is Good in the mile, or my in the dirt mile? I'll have to look it up. I think so. Or I may have been drawing a blank. But anyway.
Might have been.
I think it was Life is Good. To Love's Only You, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, that was a mile and 3/8. So I don't see why Del Mar would change it, Noah, because you can't go a mile and a quarter at Del Mar, right? And you can't go a mile and 3/16. It's either a mile and 1/8 or a mile and 3/8, I believe, or a mile and a half. So anyway, Warlike Goddess is going to the Breeders' Cup, from what I understand. We'll see what they do with McCulloch and Idea Generation. But let's face facts, Noah. If any good Euros come over, they're probably going to win that race, the Filly Mare Turf, at the Breeders' Cup on Saturday.
Yeah, you would think so. I guess you could make the case that obviously the turf's going to be a lot different than it was in that race.
Yeah,
come November. But yeah, like you said, I would expect there's probably going to be some pretty good ones coming over, both from Japan and from Europe. And if they come over with even their B or B plus, I would think one of them would probably get the job done against a field like this.
I would think so, but if there's enough pace and Warlike Goddess fires her best shot, I suppose she can win. It's weird. I've never been a huge fan of hers. I really don't know why. It's not really fair.
Yeah.
She's been an awesome mare. I just at that level, it's a different story. Let's go on to Sunday. Yesterday, Saratoga Jockey Club Gold Cup. Noah, this is a race that we talked about on the yesterday morning's show. Actually, I talked about it myself. I went solo on the Saratoga Today show on Sunday morning, and I was a little bit suspect with Arthur's Ride. And people don't believe me, they can go back and listen to it. These are not machines, Noah. Arthur's Ride had run two 110 plus buyers, including a monster romp in the Whitney. Wasn't training nearly as fast, and Mott was a little bit worried about the 4-week turnaround. And sure enough, he was exactly right as Highland Falls upsets the field at 7-1, with Pyrenees getting second at 10-1 and Disarm third. Tapatrice a disappointing fourth, although was up close to the pace, a little more than I thought, but I guess really no excuses after that. Arthur's Ride just got tired, man. What a absolutely brilliant ride by Flavian Pratt on Highland Falls, who, you know what, Noah, he decided, I'm going to take it right to this horse. He pressed the horse early. He let the horse go. He's the 6 here. And then he comes around again and he's pressing on the far turn. Noah, this is exactly what you have to do if you want to win these kind of races.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna try and beat somebody, you beat him on the square and you beat him right to the punch, and that's pretty much exactly what Pratt did. I mean, you'd rather have a jockey be aggressive like that, just because nobody else really went out and challenged him. I mean, Tapatrice he's a little bit closer, but he's still 4 or 5 back at this point. So Pratt just went ahead and said, "I'll do it myself," and put Arthur's Ride away. And I think Highland Falls is one we need to look at carefully because he's starting to get better and better. And obviously, he didn't have the good trip last time at Monmouth, which I know our good friend Kyle Roscoe would have a field day about that one because a particular jockey was on him that day.
I loved him that day too, and I was pissed
yeah.
about the ride by a certain gentleman named Flo, who I like, by the way, in general.
Yeah, this is one where I wanted to pose this question to you just because this shakes things up a little bit. What do you do with Arthur's Ride? Because, like you mentioned, he was off the quick turnaround and working kind of skeptically. Obviously, he was so impressive in the Whitney, but there's going to be horses lining up to try to get the lead in that Breeders' Cup Classic.
Well, I tell you what is going to happen because Matt talked about it today, Noah. They're going to the Breeders' Cup Classic, and they're going to train up to it. In fact, Mott said he was a little bit concerned about the race yesterday, that it was a little bit of a quick turnaround. He wasn't sure that he was going to run. Actually, this race yesterday was the target originally for Arthur's Ride, and they decided to go to the Whitney because he was feeling so good, to be honest. The Whitney wasn't even the major plan originally. They're going to train up to the Breeders' Cup Classic, and I got to tell you what, I have no idea who I'm picking right now. Oh, actually, I shouldn't say that. I have an idea who I'm picking. But if you believe in Arthur's Ride, Noah, this is exactly the kind of situation where you don't jump off the ship because now he's going to be, instead of maybe a soft 5-2, 3-1 favorite, he's going to be 6, 7, 8-1 now, most likely, right? If he goes. And if he goes, Noah, and he's training well, and there's not a ton of early speed in this race, I would not be against betting Arthur's Ride in the Breeders' Cup Classic because now you're getting a price. And you want to just discount Mott and Alvarado at a price after this horse has run 2 monster figs previously to yesterday. He's interesting going forward. I got to see how he trains, though, Noah. That, to me, that's the big thing.
Yeah, and it's almost kind of the same thing when we were going to the Whitney with National Treasure because he was such a low price that day and was disappointing. But then again, you get those connections. You're going to get either Pratt or Juan Hernandez and Bob Baffert at 5 or 6-1, and a lot of people will be licking their chops at something like that. But yeah, it probably just depends on how they're doing in the mornings, the week or two prior.
I would agree. Shout out to Steve Pogel. Noah's spectacular. Well, not good, not great.
Wow.
Spectacular.
I don't get that
with
often.
Frank on Sunday. Kyle, Charlie, Patrick, and Noah are the future. Totally agree. Myself, Pete, and Paul, we're the very short-term future, depending on how many years we got left in us. But I agree, Steve. Thanks for the nice comments. And yeah, these guys are all great, and I couldn't be more proud of the job they're all doing for sure. 104 buyer for Highland Falls. He's going to the Breeders' Cup Classic also. look, I mean, if he can continue to improve, who's to say he can't be a factor in that race? The Breeders' Cup Classic right now, unless you think fierceness just towers over the field, is pretty wide open. I personally, we got plenty of time to talk about it, Noah, as I put you back on screen here. I am very fascinated with Forever Young and City of Troy. I think both those horses, especially Forever Young, because he's dirt proven, could be serious, serious players. The Breeders' Cup Classic is going to be a lot of fun, though. It's going to be a serious international festival, especially if City of Troy comes.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I would kind of lean towards one of those two just because we've seen what the 3-year-olds and the order horses can do, and there's just not somebody you have a ton of confidence in and can rely on. It's kind of like you're looking at a maiden race and you got horses that have run before and they haven't gotten the job done, and then you got a couple maidens that look like they're going to run well. I'm more inclined to go with the horses that I haven't seen before because maybe they might sparkle and show something special.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be interesting. Tapatrice, I doubt will go to the Breeders' Cup Classic. That was a major disappointment. I thought he could be a factor going forward. Maybe he still will, but I thought that was pretty disappointing effort from him. Okay, let's go to San Diego. Let's go to Del Mar, your favorite track in the world. I think it's safe to say. Born and raised in Orange County, not too far from San Diego and Del Mar. Noah, I was having an okay day Saturday, early in the day. And then late Saratoga and late Del Mar came around. And look, I know you scored in the last race of the day, which we'll talk about. This Pacific Classic, I got to tell you, we talked about it before. I don't want to throw too much shade towards Del Mar. It's not their fault, that they got the field they got. And it's not their fault that Adair Manor tied up, 2 days before the race and couldn't run. The winner of the 2024 Pacific Classic, and hats off to Doug O'Neill, man. Mixto, 46-40, full Serrano, second, and Reincarnate, who was a little more likely third. Noah, a few months ago, did you have the Mixto full Serrano exacta for the Pacific Classic on your bingo card?
I did not. Mixto was a horse that had been running in some pretty big races, but he had been running second, third, and fourth, and he really wasn't showing anything that could kind of put him over the top. But then you get a weak field in the Pacific Classic, and you get a pretty good trip, I thought, from Kyle Frey, who had a hell of a day on Saturday. You meet a field like that, and anything can happen. I mean, we went in thinking this was pretty much a 5-horse race, and boy, was I wrong, definitely.
Frey put him in a perfect spot, sitting right up a full Serrano. I thought Dr. Vankman, who, to your credit, you didn't love in this race, no, and I was a little bit skeptical. I liked him a little more than you did, but you were skeptical all along. The 3 got an absolute dream trip with 0 excuses. Reincarnate ran a real good race. I was not sure what to do with the 1-horse El Miracolo. I thought it was weird that horse is coming back so quickly in 2 weeks, and I happen to be right about that. But again, Mixos had a great trip, but you got to give credit to Full Serrano, who really hung around a long time. And Noah, I think, could be a serious player in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile if they decide to go that route. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that's probably a logical route. I thought Full Serrano probably ran the best race out of anybody just because he set some pretty decent fractions, and he kind of kicked away a little bit at the top of the stretch, and I thought he was gone. But I guess you got to give credit where credit's due, and Mixto ran him down fair and square. And like I said, Dr. Vankman was one I was a little skeptical about the 10 furlongs, but I guess he would be one. Maybe if he's training well, he might go to the dirt mile as well.
It'll be interesting to see. And Mixto just kept coming, man. I mean, he just kept coming.
Mm-hmm.
Full Serrano's getting tired. Reincarnate. I mean, it was 100 buyer, which sort of surprised me. I Mixto was going to the Breeders' Cup Classic, apparently. I give him less of a shot in that race than I do in this race times 3. So I just, look, it's an incredible training job, though, and a great ride. There's not much to take out of this race. Let's say it. Let's call it like we see it, Noah, and be fair. We both like Katona. Katona was awful. I don't have an excuse. It ended up being a bad choice for us, a bad pick. I don't really know what to make of it. He ran for no real reason I could see, 9-10 points worse than he has lately. It just wasn't his day. I don't really know what to say.
Yeah, I guess you could make the case that he was a little wide around the first turn in the backstretch, but even if he was, I don't think he
Yeah.
was really getting the job done. Maybe running fourth or fifth. He was one that I had hoped was kind of going to run one of his career best, just because he had been off for so long and he was second off the layoff, and it looked like they were pointing him to that spot, and he was just quite frankly disappointing.
I'm just amazed, Noah, that when you have a venue like Del Mar for $1 million race, where the Breeders' Cup's going to be held, why so many East Coast or Midwest horses decided not to go to the Pacific Classic, whether Adair Manor was going or not, who, by the way, I don't think was a sure thing in that race at all, just baffles me. I know that these guys and ladies know they don't want to keep going back and forth, West Coast, East Coast. Like, I get that. But in this day and age, okay, it's a 4 or 5 hour plane flight. It's like 2 months before the Breeders' Cup. I just, I was surprised that we didn't see more horses, come over. I think Proxy ran, I think last year in the Pacific Classic, if
I
I recall
believe
right.
so, yeah.
Like one of those kind of horses. It just surprised me. No, I don't really, who am I? I mean, I have never trained a horse, but I don't know. It felt like a lost opportunity to me.
Yeah, I guess it could just be coincidence. It could just be the fact that some of the major players just kind of have a plan set out, and they just kind of plan to ship over, um,
Yeah.
a few weeks before that big weekend. Um, but yeah, it was a little disappointing, just because really the only East or Midwest shipper was, uh, who was the one, Il Miracolo,
Yeah.
who had run like 2 weeks before that. So maybe that was their plan to try to get a race over the track. But yeah, just a little odd, definitely this year.
One more quick question, then we're going to go to the last two races. Now that you've seen the race, if Adair Manor was in the race, who you and I were both against, by the way, for the record, before she scratched, does she win? It was 100 buyer won that race.
This is a tough one.
Well, that's why
Going
I
into
got
the
you on.
race,
What do you think? I'm
yeah.
going to put on Charlie or Patrick? I mean,
Going into the race, I just think she's a better animal when she's on the lead. And just because I knew Full Serrano was a dead scent, I didn't think she was going to get the lead. Therefore, she was going to have to sit off and then go by and then hold off other horses. Which I guess if you look at the race in retrospect, nobody was really running late. So I don't know. I would say probably not. But I really wouldn't. I wouldn't discredit anyone to say that she would have beat that field.
don't tell that to TC Markham. Would have had a 101 buyer and won by a half a length. I'm going to still say no. And I'll be betting against her in the Breeders' Cup distaff. I'm almost positive of it. Maybe she's just as good as she's ever been now. I don't know, but we'll see. I always thought she's overrated. I was right last year with her in the Breeders' Cup distaff. We'll see. Two more races to talk about Noah. Now, this next one, you were spot on. I tip my cap, sir, because I thought the horse was interesting, but I didn't love him. He'd never run a race like he ran yesterday. And I'm talking about the horse Saturday, excuse me. Conclude wins the mile. I'm drawing a blank now on the name of the race. I'm sorry. Was it the Del Mar Mile?
Mile, yeah.
Yeah, Del Mar Mile. No, you spotted this horse a long time ago for reasons I'll let you explain. The main reason he won, in my opinion, is an unbelievable ride by Hector Berrios.
Yeah, and the ride that Barrios gave him two back was a little bit questionable. This was a horse that he had done really well at Del Mar in his 3-year-old year over the summer last year, and he had done most of his best running either on or near the lead. Um, in the race two back, I believe he was, I think, like 7 or 8 lengths back, turning for home. And I knew that just wasn't his style. So I figured there wasn't a lot of pace to begin with. So I knew Hector was going to have him close. I figured you might even have him on the lead, which he went ahead and did. And then he got those reasonable fractions. And hats off to Barrios and D'Amato, who was another guy that had a huge day on Saturday.
Again, no, look, I have never been a jockey. You and have never been a jockey. You will never be jockeys. Was this a grade 1 or grade 2? I'm sorry for asking the question. I think it was
I
a grade 2.
believe this was a grade 2.
Okay. 23-2. That's reasonable. 47 on that turf course, moderate. I won't say slow, moderate. He walked the dog. Give credit to Almendares, by the way, who ran a monster race, the 4 here, who was coming from behind and almost got there. I'm sure right about now, you're probably getting a little bit nervous. Looks like a
Yeah,
little lead switch issue here for Conclude, but got straightened out, and boy, they are coming from all places, but they couldn't get to him.
Yeah, Conclude's actually always been a little funky with his lead changes. He sometimes likes to get stuck on that left lead, and I was worried mainly just because obviously I liked Conclude, but Almendaris was one I was completely against, and I thought he got a perfect trip in that wicker that both of those horses and a couple others had been coming out of that race. So it was kind of polar opposites for me, either the horse that I loved or the horse I didn't like at all, and I was glad that Conclude got the job done.
Yeah, I mean, great call. That was your best bet play of the day on your par pick tip sheet.
Yep.
So, and you got
And
5 to 1.
I thought it was crazy that I got 5-1. I knew he was like 7-2 going to the gate. I was very shocked.
Now, hey, odds go up once in a while. It's amazing. Tom Espinoza from San Fran. That was his only winner of the day and saved me. Awesome run by the Horsin Barrios. Tom, congratulations. Yeah, Del Mar I thought was rough sledding for me in general, especially with Mixto. That just sort of hurt a lot of people. What do you do with Conclude? I mean, I don't see any Breeders' Cup Mile horses in this field, to be very honest. The buyer was 100. I mean, I suppose. Well, not I suppose. There's no reason why Conclude can't get better and better. I mean, feel free to take a few minutes going down this list. I mean, what do you do with X, Y, and Z horses in your opinion, Noah?
Yeah, I don't know if Conclude is good enough for the Turf Mile. But they do, when they run the Breeders' Cup in California, they have that Twilight Derby, which I think was a grade 2, and I believe it's a 1.125 miles.
It is a 1.125 miles. Can he get him? Is he a 3-year-old?
He's a 4-year-old, and I believe
the Twilight Derby's for 3-year-olds, Noah.
FYI. Oh, okay. Then that's a good question. I'll have to think about that.
Well, they have the what's the feature mile race before the Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita? I'm drawing a blank on the name now. I'm very embarrassed. Anyway, they have the Breeders' Cup preview race is a real nice mile race at Santa Anita. I can look it up.
The Shoemaker Mile?
No, that used to be run in Hollywood. I'll look it up as we're talking. And as we're mentioning, September 28th, first time ever, California Crown Day, I think they're calling it. It's going to be a major Breeders' Cup preview race. I'm looking at it right now as we speak. Let's see.
Paul Halloran, the man himself, says the Ken Matty.
No, it's the City of Hope. It's now called the City of Hope Mile. It's a grade 2. That's going to be run on that day, along with a Calbred race, the California Crown Turf Championship, a grade 2, the California Crown Eddie D Stakes, which is down the hill, and the California Crown, which is $1 million going a 1.125 miles. All those are going to be on the same day. No, so there is a grade 2 that I'm sure these horses are going to go to. I just don't know if we have any Breeders' Cup horses here.
Yeah, I don't really know. I bet you a good handful of those will go to that race that you just mentioned.
Yep.
Dujour is one who had a lot of high hopes for, and he was really good last year. And he ran a really good race at Santa Anita, I believe is in February or March, but a little bit of regression for him. So if you think that he was going to run in the mile, I have to rule that out now.
I don't think he's a 6-year-old now. He's losing a little bit off the fastball, Noah.
Yeah.
And we talked on the Equine Edge show. We were both against him. Look, it's not easy to go against horses that look like they can beat you by 4 or 5 or 6. Ferocious for all you fans of Saratoga today that Paul and I were against, although Ferocious ran very well. Sometimes you just got to have some guts, Noah, and some other things that are below the waist and just take some chances. And Dujour is just not the same. I don't want any part of going forward. Really nice career. Let's go to the last race, the Green Flash, and a horse that I think will absolutely be a threat on Breeders' Cup Day, and that is Motorius, not Motorius BIG, just Motorius 660. This is a wicked turn of foot for this horse in the Green Flash. Johnny Padre is a really nice California bred who closed like a train to run second. My personal choice, No Nay Hudson, ran certainly credibly for Wesley Ward. Motorius got a 98 buyer. That's very solid. This is a horse for course, Noah, with a wicked turn of foot that does something very rare, and that is can close going 5 furlongs at Del Mar, which will definitely come in handy considering you'd have to believe on the Breeders' Cup turf there's going to be a ton of early speed. Notorious is the 10. I'll just let this race run through with a nasty close on the outside. I believe it was Rispoli, Noah.
Yeah, and he didn't just close. I mean, he closed from way back, which is these 5 furlong turf races at Del Mar have been generally speed favoring. I mean, he's only got, 1 or 2 horses beat, and actually him and Johnny Padres, who were last and second to last at that point, were the ones that ended up running 1-2. So you got to give credit to both of them. Notorious was kind of like du jour in a sense, where he was really good last year and at the end of last year. And then his last 2 or 3 races when he, I think he ran on the Breeders, or not the Breeders, the Derby undercard, and he was a little disappointing. I know he ran the Breeders' Cup last year, and he was the favorite and was a little disappointing. But maybe he just likes Del Mar. I mean, that certainly leads me to believe that he won't have any problem come November.
I want to freeze it right here. No, you've been watching Del Mar all your life, and you've been watching, especially this year. I like None Hudson, who's about to take the lead. How many horses have you seen this meet come from here at this point of the race, especially when a horse, like when the 8 does this, right here? Are you kidding me?
You're going to the window.
I mean, no, this is what, 5 lengths with, this is the 8th pole, right? I believe. I mean, So there's is that right? I think that, or the 16th pole, I think. 16th. I mean, there's not a lot of time left in this race. You see, wow, look at that left-hand whip. That is a serious wind-up. As you can see, good freeze frame on Rispoli. This is a serious horse and a serious close. And he wins, I won't say for fun, but this was not a photo finish.
No. Well, and Johnny Padres, the 11, was coming just as fast. So I think you got to give him credit as well. And I mean, look at, he was wrapped up.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was, like you said, haven't seen that often over the course of the summer. And it would be interesting to see Johnny Padres actually close faster than him, which is a little surprising to see.
Wow. A final 8th in 11. I mean, you almost never see that. Notorious was 11.15. Really darn good as well. Look, I think Notorious is a serious player. Probably the only one, I guess, maybe None Hudson. I was a little bit disappointed with him, but I think Notorious is a serious player in the Breeders' Cup turf. In fact, of all the races that we just watched today and went over, I think he might be one of the more serious players, actually, of everyone we've talked about on Breeders' Cup Day.
Could be. Yeah, definitely. I know you were glad because we on our Thursday show, Kyle liked the 3 Sassy Nature, who looked like she was going to get the lead, and it looked like for a while that you were going to have to maybe pull some money out of your pocketbook there. But I think that was a little short-lived. Yeah.
Nah. Never worried. I had confidence in what was going to happen there as I'm sort of staring down at the screen and seeing the horse that I need just run absolutely awful and not win. So it looks like I'll be out of the pick 5, but hey, that's okay because time's running out. And of course, your choice is trying to come up the inside. I don't think he's going to get there either. In fact, I think we're about to see a bomb at Del Mar here with a 15-1, or is this 2 going to hang on? Looks like the 2 might hang on from the inside. And okay, 5-2, even money shot, absolutely awful in that race. Now what, 0 for 4, Noah? I believe that horse and burning a lot of money.
0 for 4, 3 seconds before that, and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 6th place finish.
Oof. All right. Listen, no, we went a little bit shorter tonight. Appreciate your time and your thoughts. Any closing thoughts on Del Mar, Saratoga, anything going forward, anything going on in your world as you just started your junior at UK? Of course, you interned for John Stewart in Resolute Racing. I know that was pretty special. You've had quite the summer, as it is officially not by the, I guess, lunar calendar, but by our mental calendar with Labor Day today ending.
Yeah, schoolwork will start to ramp up a little bit. This was just the first week that I was in school, so I definitely did a lot more handicapping than I did actual schoolwork for this weekend. But I'm sure that will change just because Del Mar, it's closing weekend, and then after that we get a little bit of a much needed break going into Keeneland, and then the first weekend in November, which we're all very excited for.
You know what? I just got a text from, let's see,
my mother,
from a Mrs. Maher. Howard, what are you doing to my son?
She's running.
He needs to study. I'm sorry. Sorry, Mrs. Maher.
She needs to get ready for a race coming up in about a half hour.
Well, yeah, it's very exciting. People watching live, talk about that real quick and mention what we're talking about, because people watching the replay have no idea what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so there's a horse, the 12 horse in race 10, which is probably 25 minutes now, for Freysoon and D'Amato coming from overseas, called Miss Maher. And it's actually spelled the same way, which is it's such a coincidence, because when you look at the name, I get so many different spellings, and when people just say something wrong, like meager or something, I've heard it so many times that I just don't bother trying to correct them. So when you see spelling like that, it'll be interesting to see if Trevor actually pronounces it right.
It will be that. I say yes. I think he's going to find out how that is pronounced. Sylvain, by the way, what's up, Sylvain? We had a chance to meet him at Saratoga. It says hi to you, Noah. Very smart young men. Very nice. Yourself and many others. No, it's been an absolute pleasure. Appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and find our closing banners so we can wrap up the show here. Big week coming up next week. Ben Boozin on Wednesday. I think you guys are covering closing weekend Del Mar, right?
I think so far. That's what I've heard, at least.
That's the plan. All right, we'll check them out on Wednesday night. Of course, we'll be on Thursday night. Again, Picks and Ponies now half an hour earlier start, 7:30 Eastern. For my good friend, excellent young handicapper, and co-host of Ben and Boozin, Noah Maher. This has been your host, Howard Kravitz, episode 35 of Horsin Around. Crush your bets wherever you play this week. Take care, everyone. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.